Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to the second session of 2 of questions and answers on Iqra TV live from the Bradford studios on Manchester Road, right on the side of, just as you come off the M606 really. We're not that far away, maybe a 5-minute drive to the M606 in roughly that direction. And we're kind of on a bit of a ring road as well, so we're accessible to many members of the public. So you can visit us, normal office hours, pop in, come and see us, find out what's going on. We've got a few events coming up soon, inshallah, from our offices here. We're doing a mental health and well-being course on the 8th of January, if I'm not mistaken. We'll give you more details closer to the time, but you can register now. So that might be an idea. I think what we'll do is we'll give you that maybe next week, inshallah. Remind me, Adil will remind me as well. Maybe we can have that image put up. And so therefore you can see what's going on, and there'll be details on there on how you can also apply to that point. Anyway, the questions and answers, questions, curiosities and queries, 01274 214283. That's 01274 214283. Please do give us a call and we will be able to deal with your queries. I know we've been very quiet since this whole week. We're just going to see who the first caller is going to be. Sooner or later I can hear Adil saying, right, we've got a caller calling in, but not at the moment. Seems to be that you're quite happy just watching me rather than calling in. So you have a choice. I know some of you prefer to email, as we've seen so far today and yesterday. If you wish to email, then it is amjad.muhammad, amjad, .mohamamed at alkhair.org. So get your email there. And as I said, I literally pick my phone up, check my inbox to see if I've received anything, and then I will be able to answer your question. If not, you can, as I said, use the normal number to phone in. In the meantime, I'm just going to jump on to the groups that we have just to make sure that everything has been answered. And yes, on the sisters group, everything has been answered. Everything is up to date. We had those questions that I dealt with yesterday. We had one sister come back with some details, and then I answered that as well. So that is done. That's something we can put to rest, and if nothing comes through on Friday, then that's a job well done, I guess. Let's see if we got any extra on the chaps group. Okay, we do have some. Someone is wearing muzeh, then wearing normal socks on top of their muzeh. Then making masa on the normal socks. Is this okay to do? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's always good practice, brothers, that when you ask a question to give salam first, maybe even ask how the brother is, rather than just sort of randomly placing a question and then expecting an answer. But khair, we will give an answer. The point of the khufs, or mozeh as you call them, is to be wiped upon. So what we do is when we're wearing khufs, we wash our foot first, because wudu is only valid with the foot washed originally. And then before we nullify our wudu, we wear our khufs. Once we have worn our khufs, now if we nullify wudu, there is no need to wash our feet. Okay? Because now the khuf is acting as a substitute for our feet. So anything which acts as a substitute must have certain conditions which it must meet. For example, it must be tough enough to be able to walk for several hours. It must be able to have a form, a body, so that it stands on its own without the need for extra support. And it must not allow water to seep through naturally. So therefore, a normal sock does not meet those conditions, but a khuf does. So one wouldn't be able to wipe over a normal sock unless they soaked the living daylights out of the sock with a wet hand, that it actually went through onto the khuf as well, because it is the khuf that needs to be wiped. So I hope that makes things clear. And that deals with that question as well. Alhamdulillah. So I think, as I from now I'm not mistaken, that's all our questions that are done. We have no other questions that are outstanding. Alhamdulillah. What a day. What a situation to be in. And we still have 15 minutes spare, alhamdulillah. So now's the time where you fill in that gap, because we need some questions from you all. Otherwise, we can't call this show questions and answers, because if we don't have questions, then how are we going to answer them? So please do ring 01274 214299 so that you can pose your question here live, and we can deal with that query. If on the other hand you wish to email, then it is amjad.muhammad@alkhair.org. Please do email on there. Whilst we're waiting for any potential questions to come in, I'm just going to ask Adil if he's got some saved as well from historically speaking, because I know he gets emails as well. In fact, whilst we were on air, he got that email question, which he then forwarded to me. So he also gets questions. So he says he's going to look into his goodie bag. I'm not sure if that's because he's looking for questions or he's having a little snack. Yeah, I thought as much. Or he's having a little snack whilst he's doing everything else he's doing in there, producing and recording and editing and all the rest of it. Maybe that's the snack he's having. Anyway, we'll soon find out whether he's having a food snack or he's actually jumping into the bag of emails to fetch out an email for us. Whilst we wait for him to get that email, bear in mind, obviously, it is now Thursday night, and tomorrow is Yawm al-Jum'ah, another week gone. That's how quick these weeks are flying, and yesterday was the 1st of December, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, today is the 1st of December. I was mistaken. So it's already the 1st of December. It's going to be soon flying through December. As we know, the last week or two is normally holidays anyway. And soon we're in 2023. Who would have thought, eh? Who would have thought? 2023. You know, it's 13 years since 2010. And 2010 seems like yesterday. You know, when COVID-19 was around, surprisingly it was 2019. That's why it's called COVID-19. And we didn't go into lockdown until March 2020. Well, add another couple of months and we will be on March 2023. That means 3 years ago. You know, that went on. Yeah, it just seems like, you know, yesterday that we experienced that unusual situation when you actually did go out, obviously for legal reasons, and the roads were quiet, the streets were quiet. It was so bizarre and unprecedented. You know, such an unusual event for such a long period of time. It kind of really shook people up, you know, people's mindsets. So, you know, time is always going to be moving forward. And therefore, you know, it's something that we need to take value of. We need to appreciate it. We need to make sure we utilize it. We need to maximize our energy. You know, I was reading somebody situation the other day where unfortunately they got diagnosed with cancer, and you know they're not really sure how long this person has got, but I think he's speaking about months. So you know, you just don't know what is around the corner. You don't know what what announcement you're going to hear, unfortunately, what news you're going to hear, and how you're going to move forward from that. Anyway, so that's about time. In that time, Adil has managed to pull out an old email from his goodie bag, and that is it permissible to offer duha prayer during working hours? So when we speak about working hours, then this is understood from all employers that does not literally mean their employee is just continuously working. It's just not the norm that when you have a 7.5 hour day, that you literally, as soon as you walk in at 8:30 or 8 o'clock, whatever time you start, up until the time you finish, whether it's 4:30, 5, 5:30, that you are constantly working. It's just not reality. We're humans. We're not robots. So sometimes we may make a comment. We might, you know, have a little bit of a joke with a staff member. We may go to use the lavatory and things of that nature. Salatul Duha is, you know, if it's going to take, it shouldn't take more than a few minutes. then it's not a problem. It's just a natural break in your work. It could easily be used to go get yourself a cup of water, a glass of water. It could easily be used to go get a cup of coffee, or just have a little wander, stretch your legs in the office because you've been sat at the desk for the last 3-4 hours and you just need a little bit of, stretching. So it could be used, those are normal things. If, however, you're going to spend like 20 minutes, half an hour, making wudu and praying, now that will become problematic. That will become problematic, okay? So if it's a few minutes, it's not an issue. But if it's going to be in excess of 10 minutes, in excess of 5 minutes, now it's an issue. Now, you could potentially, normally we get kind of tea breaks. A normal working pattern is that you are allowed, a tea break for 10 minutes or so, halfway through the morning. And therefore, you can just take your coffee break or tea break early. And instead of using it for coffee and tea, you're praying Salatul Duha in it. So that's fine as well. But if it so happens that there's no coffee break, you're going to spend longer than 5 minutes or whatever, then it's probably best to speak to your employer if you are offering Salatul Duha. It is not a requirement. It is not necessary. It is not wajib. It is not fard. So you may ask your employer that, look, can I just have about 5-10 minutes spare at this time? And I don't mind cutting my lunch hour shorter. And instead of having a lunch hour, I don't mind having a lunch 50 minutes. I'm cool with that. So I can use that 10 minutes from my lunch to pray my salah. Now, if it doesn't impact on your employer's business, because you're not necessarily on the phones at that time, or you're not face-to-face dealing with customers at that time, or you're not required to do a particular task at that time, and there's some flexibility, then your employer might say, yeah, absolutely fine, it's not an issue. But if, however, your job means that you are literally customer focused, talking to somebody, dealing with somebody's issue, now it's going to be difficult to do. So therefore, in those circumstances, it's better not to, because your job is you are being paid by your employer, and your employer is saying that we want you to work these hours, and this is what you're going to be paid. So I want you to give me your time between this time and this time. So therefore, you have to give your time between this time and this time, because your employer is paying you to give your time between this time and this time. You can't, in a time where your employer is paying you, do something which is for your own benefit, like, have a job on the side, or, be talking to your family member, or, whatever else, unless you have permission. For example, if you need to go to see the doctors, a doctor's appointment, then there will be some policy that your employer will have, that they will say that, you will count that as half a day, or you will notify your line manager to say that you're going to be absent on that particular moment, or whatever. Excuse me, whatever it might be, so that at least there is some kind of structure. You cannot just decide that you want to do something unless you have that flexibility from your employer. Some of us work fairly flexible hours rather than fixed hours, and therefore there is that level of flexibility that I've got to do 7 hours a day, but I might start a little bit late and I might finish a little bit late, or I might start early and finish early, or whatever. A person just kind of works out whatever suits them best, and they work out whatever suits them best. Why? Because then it gives a little bit of flexibility. We have children pick up, drop off from school. We have, other arrangements, and having that flexibility to start when we want, finish when we want, as long as we're doing the hours, is we find it works well. We've had many discussions about people who work from home and how they find working from home far better, especially if they have to travel, commute. They're doing an hour's drive there, an hour's drive back, and they're losing 2.5 hours of their day, which they could just literally roll out of bed and they could be online. But as we know, sometimes there's a negative side to that, because does that person work all the hours that they're there, or are they sort of falling asleep again or whatever? So these things need to be looked at. But as Muslims, we know that when we sign a contract, when we agreed a contract, then we need to abide by that contract. We need to fulfill the rights of that contract. Otherwise, we will be answerable that we agreed to do something, but we didn't do it for whatever reason. So we need to be careful on that point. So Jazakallah khair, Adil, for plucking that question out from your bag of goodies. We've got several minutes left, brothers and sisters, so I'm going to take a sip of water first. And then I'm going to say, please do call on 01274 214283. That's 01274 214283. Let me take another look to see if we have any questions that we need to deal with. And no, there's nothing come back on the gents group. Alhamdulillah, we are on question 3309. Okay, so that's plenty there. And on the ladies group, we are on about 2,560. So that's a total of 6,000 questions. I eventually got the maths, didn't I? 6,000 questions, mashallah. That's a lot of questions, a lot of answers, which people can take benefit from. But we want some of you to take benefit from today's questions and answers as well. But we've not had anybody as yet calling us, and if they don't call us in the next 60 seconds or so, it's going to mean that they're going to have to wait till tomorrow. But we don't want that to happen, do we? We want somebody to get through. I heard the phone ringing, but they're ringing the wrong number. Okay, the number to ring is 01274 214299. I think you're ringing the 01274 214283, which is my number in the office. Don't ring my office number. Ring 01274 214299. Okay, so I can hear somebody, as I said, ringing my office landline across where my office is. That's not the number to call, please. 01274 214299. Okay, that's the number to ring, and you have, I would say, a minute left to make that call. If you've just rung my office number, it's not the 83 number that you want to ring when you're ringing the studio. It's the 99 number that you want to ring when you're ringing the studio. Okay, so I'm going to ask Adil if there is another question hiding in his bag of goodies. If there is, we will be able to take that now. But he's saying that there are no questions left in his bag of goodies. So that means it's an empty bag rather than being a bag of goodies. So it's a bag of air than a bag of anything else. So that's it really. We have a couple of minutes left. So all I will do is share some nasiha with you before we part company, unless we do get a call in the next 40 seconds or so. So as I mentioned, obviously it is Thursday night. It is the time to send durood upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It has been since Maghrib time, and Maghrib was all the way around 4 p.m. So, you know, many hours ago now, you know, we're on 8, so 4 hours ago. Nice and simple. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Send your durood upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It will benefit you without any shadow of doubt. You will be resurrected nearer to him. You will be able to ask for his intercession on the day of judgment. So these are things that we should do. Also, we know it is Friday now because the night precedes the day. So ensure, obviously, any nails that need clipping, that they're clipped. Any hair that needs removing is removed. We make effort to take a ghusl in the morning, preferably. No point having a ghusl and then going to sleep and then waking up all sweaty. Not saying that everybody sweats when they sleep, but hey, you never know. But rather, when you wake up fresh in the morning, to take a ghusl, and you know, your new clothes, your clean clothes, put them on. Chaps, apply ither, ready to go for your Jummah Salah, so that at least you can go and have your Eid, because Jummah is Eid for us. Don't forget to pray Surah Kaf, and inshallah make dua for the Ummah. It's a blessed day, and there is a moment in which du'as are accepted between Asr and Maghrib on Friday. So make use of all that time and all the opportunity which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you. For me and for Adil, it's sufficient to wish you well. We will be back tomorrow, inshallah, with another live session with hopefully more questions and answers, but we're going to need to dig in Adil's bag very deep if we don't get any calls, because all my questions I have now dealt with, alhamdulillah. So it'd be nice if we had a few phone calls that will keep us occupied. So please do call us, inshallah, tomorrow, so we can have an interactive questions and answer and be able to deal with your queries that come through. Till then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.